What's going on, guys? It's your boy Thomas here, and I'm bringing back another YouTube video. And today we're going to be talking about 5 widely known misconceptions about cars. So without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to start off with the biggest one of them all: wheels. Whether or not they are called rims or wheels. A lot of people speculate on the internet that it takes a rim plus a tire to form the entire wheel, but they're actually wrong. There are many parts to make up a wheel, and a rim just so happens to be one of those parts. The rim is the outer and inner lip of the actual wheel itself. And when adding a tire to that wheel, it's still just a wheel. As you can see in this picture, you have the wheel face with the rim on the outside of the wheel, which is literally what a rim is. It's the outer piece of an object. Why it's called a rim. So to sit here and say that, oh, it takes the rim and a tire to make a wheel is completely and 100% wrong. And to finish up with the entirety of this segment, the rim, all it does is hold on to the outer edge of the tire. So whether you're calling it a wheel or a rim, just know that wheel is 100% right. Next one, letting your car warm up. As I'm sure many of you do, including myself, you want your car to be warm before you drive it. So you go outside and start the car and you let it run and warm up for a couple of minutes. Because 1, you don't want your car to be cold, and 2, you don't want the inside of your car to be cold, just so you don't damage your car. Well, I'm here to tell you it's a thing of the past. Older cars with carbureted engines, yes, you should 100% let your car warm up for a couple minutes before running it. But now with all this technology and modern cars, that's a thing of the past. Realistically, you only need about 30 to maybe 60 seconds of your car warming up before you go out and drive it. You don't have to let it sit there for minutes on minutes on minutes before taking it out. And as I said, older engines with carbureted engines, like before the 90s, you'd have to start your car and let it warm up till your car reached a certain temperature, or your needle rose to the middle to be at optimal driving temperature. But that's just not the case anymore. As I said, 30 to 60 seconds and your car is absolutely good to go and you can leave for your commute. Your engine temperature only really needs to be around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And even in my eyes, I still see that as low. I would never do that. I don't know, just me, but that's just something I wouldn't do. I'm still gonna let my car sit there for a while and warm up. But realistically, you don't have to. But what about a boosted car? A car with a turbo in it, or a supercharger? Then if you're a car guy like me, then you know that running your car in boost while your temperatures are down is not good for the turbo, supercharger, or procharger. It actually will damage and over time eventually break your turbo or supercharger or procharger. So what should you do in this case? Well, as I said, your engine only needs to be around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And you can still safely drive your car. Just whatever you do not get into boost. You know, now that I realize it, with a supercharger, that would be really difficult. But no worries, if you let your car warm up and your oil temperature rises and all this and that to about 150 degrees roughly, then you can hit full boost whenever you want, and you're good to go. But these are just some ways to preserve your turbo and your engine, and in some cases, some people just will still avoid this. How about this legend? Have you ever heard of resting your hand on your shift knob as damaging your transmission? How it's not good for it? How it's really bad for your synchros and bad for your gear fork? Hell, they even come on owner's manuals now saying not to do this, as well as big name companies even advising you not to do it because it'll prematurely wear your synchros, you could damage your shifting fork, and also will damage your transmission in the long run. If they're all claiming it, it seems legit, right? Newsflash. They're wrong. As for myself, I rest my hand on my shift knob all the time. 1, it's comfortable. 2, it allows me to change gears a lot quicker. And 3, if something was the worst case scenario happen, my hand's already at the shifter, ready to go into what gear or neutral at the blink of an eye. But the reason that all of these claims are actually false is because your shifter is not directly linked to your transmission. Your shifter sits on a ball bearing, which then goes to your transmission. That ball bearing is literally taking the force that you're putting your hand on your shift knob and basically just reducing any risk of any of this happening. Yes, your shift collar is going to hit your shift fork, but that's only when you're shifting, and that's for a short amount of time. The whole purpose of that ball bearing is to literally reduce all of these problems that companies and car manufacturers are claiming. So as bad as it seems, I can assure you it's safe. Literally resting your hand on your shift knob literally doesn't produce enough force to kill your synchros, to break your gear fork, or anything like that. You'd legitimately have to have superhuman strength in order to bend that fork or even break that fork. And for your synchros, they'll wear and tear over time, as normal cars will. And you'd have to be aggressively shifting every single gear every time you drive in order to break one of those synchros or your fork or anything like that. Hell, even that ball bearing that your shifter is sitting on. I know I'm still going to keep my hand on my shift knob. In my eyes, it's safer so that way I can quickly react to a bad scenario case. This one for a fact, I know 95% of people actually do. I'm included in that 95%, and I'm not afraid to admit it. So while you're driving and you see a parking spot, it's a parallel park, so you're slowing down to it, and you damn near come to a dead stop, but you take your car out of first or out of drive and put it directly into reverse, while your momentum of your car is still rolling forward. I'm sure enough every single one of us has done this. It's honestly hard not to do it, but putting your car in reverse while you're still rolling forward is actually really bad for the transmission. It'll wear down the synchro and it'll also wear down the gear. And let me tell you, transmissions are not cheap. I don't know from experience, I just have friends that have bought transmissions. But it's not something where you have to 100% fully come to a dead stop. With modern technology as well, seems to be the case here, a lot of these. Sometimes your car won't even allow you to go into reverse until you come to a dead stop or you reach a certain speed at which it's safe to put in reverse. Or vice versa, from going from reverse to then go into drive or first gear. It's the same basic rules. It's hard on your transmission till you come to a complete dead 100% stop. And yeah, I'm sure enough you've probably heard that one before, but you'd be surprised at how many people still actually do this today. That's why if you've ever been cruising on the highway in a newer car, doing let's say about 60 miles an hour, and you've tried to go into reverse, your car won't allow you. And that's just because with modern technology, they've realized people are stupid. And they have gone from drive or fifth and tried to go into reverse, and I promise you that is not as crazy as it sounds. All your car does is just start slowing down. It doesn't jolt you forward like in the cartoons or something like that and make you come to a dead stop. But still in modern cars, if you are rolling forward and you put it in reverse, it does still wear and tear your transmission a little bit. I promise you there's worse things probably going on. And lastly, not washing your car frequently. At least where I live, there's a lot of people that just drive their car from point A to point B, go to work, go to school, literally just use their car as transportation. And they never wash their car, like ever, at all. But not washing your car actually can lead to some serious problems. As a car enthusiast myself, I try and wash my car very frequently. Plus, it's also fun for me. But I understand it could seem a bit silly to a normal person that isn't a huge car enthusiast, that washing your car frequently is actually really good for your car. Because leaving dirt, dust, mud, anything you can pick up off the road on your car for a long period of time can eventually lead to a couple of these things. All of that grime and dust and dirt and mud and all this and that can eat at your clear coat, can also eat at your paint and also chip your paint. As well as if you leave it on there long enough, it could actually eat through the paint, the clear coat, the metal, and create rust, which no one wants rust on their car. Even a person that isn't into cars doesn't want rust on their car. And on top of that, if you think about it, if that's all on the outside of your car that you can see on your paint, think about what's on the underneath of your car. All that same stuff is sitting on your frame, on your axles, on your boots. Over time, that eventually can all eat at all of those things. But if you live in a colder climate like I do here in Maryland, where you get sometimes some pretty severe winters, to the point where they actually have to put salt on the road. And if you're from the northern states or you're in a climate where it does snow, then you are very familiar with salt being on the roads. And as you drive and all that salt then just attaches to your paint, the underside of your car, on your frame, axles, and all this and that, the salt will really eat at your frame and as well as your paint if you don't wash it off quickly. And I'm not saying it has to be like the most urgent thing in the world, but within a couple days or so of driving it with it on your car, it's probably going to be best to get it off as quickly as you possibly can. Now, I'm not saying it's a dire emergency, it's just best if you get it done sooner than later. So even if you do live in a colder climate like I do, it's always a good idea to wash your car, as much as you don't want to, because you don't want to be out in the cold, you don't want to be freezing, you're afraid of spraying water on your car and then it freezing on your car. I promise you at the end of the day, it's going to be worth it and it will preserve your car way more. As well as when you do wash it, be sure to sometimes to even spray the underside of your car, on your frame, on your joints, axles, just so that way none of that stuff can actually eat at those things as well. Because in the long run, you'll be much appreciative of this. But hey, there's 5 misconceptions about cars that most people didn't actually know. If you learned something from this video, or even knew any of these, or knew them all, be sure to hit the subscribe button and like and comment down below. Let me know which one you learned, or all the ones that you already knew. And if you guys haven't yet, be sure to follow the social medias. I'm really trying to push out content for YouTube now. And if you guys haven't yet, be sure to check out some of my older videos. And with that being said, y'all, deuces.